You want to try to create ways that people can like engage with the puzzle and play with it and learn something about the inside and another step, and slowly they get closer to the solution. That's been a key learning on our end to like how do you make a good puzzle that people enjoy is give them a path to the success.
I was thinking, like, I was on a walk today just around my house. I was like, I don't think I've talked to these guys in 10 years. Like, I caught up with Nate earlier this week. But there's gonna be a lot to catch up on. Um, I guess we can get into it. Maybe to start, um, obviously we know each other, but like a lot of people listening or people who listen, might not be
Yeah,
familiar with you guys. So, like, if maybe you could just do like a quick intro, like background, um, just like how would you introduce yourselves to someone who doesn't necessarily know what you guys do?
sure. Yeah, I'm happy to go. My name's Damien. I'm an industrial designer. I've been working on medical devices during the day, and then at night I work with Nate on a couple of housewares and home goods brands, mainly Revision and Curio, where we do sort of it's like two different things. So with revision, it's like left brain, right brain kind of stuff. But with revision, we kind of design whatever we want in our own lives, right? So if we see a problem and we're like, oh, it's really annoys us, we kind of just make the solution. We make the thing for the problem. We're like, yeah, we could do it like this, and it'd be so cool. And we love it, and we build it, and then we're like, maybe there's other people in the world who have that same thing, but generally it's kind of like it's just like it's just for us. Like we just build a thing and it's kind of experimental and it's sort of I don't know, pushing some envelopes here and there. But Curio was born out of Revision, where we've always had this interest in like mechanical interactions and sort of nerdy, like how things sort of come together and come apart. And Nate actually started out, designing these puzzles with Craig Hill, and so we were, playing with puzzles and designing them, and they're really hard to make because there's a lot of tooling and a lot of like manufacturing stuff on the back end. And we partnered with Craig Hill for our first puzzle because they had already had experience doing it and they knew Hunter and everything. So seemed like a really good fit, and it was, and it worked really well. But after that, we were like, man, these puzzles, people love them. Like, it seems like a shame to have them live with our sort of weird stream of consciousness art brand. We should break them out to be their own thing. And so that's how Curio was born, was just taking like this this little nugget of something that was like beautiful and resonated with a lot of people, and just giving it space to breathe and being its own thing. So now we have two brands, Revision, and we have Curio. And I've been, working with Nate on that since 2017. But I guess a little bit of background. Nate and I met in college with you, and we all shared the same studio together. And the reason that we're all friends is because we would, be working really hard, and then we look up and it's 11:45 p.m. And who's sitting around us but like these faces? Like the three of us are like the people still in the studio. So it's like, well, I guess we'll be friends. So that's kind of how it sort of started. And I don't know, it just was, I always found that working with someone else, especially Nate, like it was like I always designed better. Like something about like communicating with him, and he would push me to like my limits, and I could help push him to his limits. And it always came out to be something better than it would have been if I was like in a vacuum. And so after graduating,
Yeah.
we continued that basically, on the phone. Like, he was working in New York and I was working in North Carolina, and I would call him with my problems and he would call me with his problems. And we'd usually like come up with some interesting, thing here or there. And that was always, sort of how our collaboration blossomed. What do you think, Nate?
Yeah, I mean, you covered a lot of it. It's all
Sorry.
true. That's all true. I'll stamp approval. That happened. Uh, yeah, for sure. It's interesting you bring up like late nights in the studio because there's something about like talking with someone else and bringing someone else into your design process. Like triples the effect.
Mm.
More than double. It triples the effect because like you can't trust your own thoughts. At least that's how I work. Like if I do a project on my own, very likely to just not make sense at the end of the
Oh, yeah.
day or not get completed. So it's like I know for Damien and I, we both like we love each other and we hold each other very precious to like this process only works if there's two of us. We like to joke that like together we're a whole industrial designer who can develop
Yeah.
products. But individually, I'm just off doing weird ideas, and Damien is like executing on a treehouse in the backyard, but it's not design, and neither
Yeah.
of us accomplish our goals.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it's funny. Like I've been starting a business now the last 3 months, and that's what I'm running into as well. Is I have like a lot of ideas on paper, and there's things like I know I'm looking at 20 ideas, and I'm saying like, okay, I know there's three of these that I really like, but I don't know if other people like them. So and I'll show my wife, but she's a teacher. She doesn't necessarily have like a design eye. So it's like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm asking for your opinion, but I also like don't completely trust it. I take it with a grain of salt. But that's really cool. It's funny. I think too, like for me at least, that confidence has like come over time. As I've gotten more experienced, I feel like I've been able to make those decisions more confidently without necessarily like always needing a sounding board. But that's cool that you guys recognize that so early on. So like I haven't seen you guys more or less in like 10 years. Which is pretty wild that that much time has passed. And it's funny, I was talking to Nate, and it's like we're both married. We're all married. We all have kids now. We've all kind of like gone on these separate paths. But I'm curious. So you guys stayed connected right out of school? Because you
yeah.
mentioned did you start revision in 2017? We graduated in 14. So was it like a 3 or 4 year period of kind of just chatting about this or that? Or were you guys like actively working on projects? Like I'm just curious, like, was it like an immediate transition or like what were those in
Mhm.
early years initially like?
So right out of school, I got a job at Craig Hill in New York. So we split geographically immediately. Uh Damien worked a couple of places in North Carolina, and I think we both did kind of like portfolio reviews of each other. A lot of like, how is working as an industrial designer now? How are you moving in the direction you want to? And fixing up your portfolio is a major part of like first 3 years out of school, of redoing it every year because you've already got real products you can add in there. So you definitely want to like get rid of the schoolwork, get rid of the schoolwork.
Mhm.
Uh, and I think after a couple years of that, Damien and I we started talking about products. But more importantly, at my work at Craig Hill was getting to be not what I wanted it to be. I wasn't getting paid enough to live in New York, and I was like desperate to just have a comfortable life, a little more comfortable than what I'm doing
Yeah,
here.
you wanted to eat 3 meals a day and
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
exactly
Stop
that.
sleeping on
I'm not
clothes.
being greedy. I'm
Yeah.
not greedy here. I wanted 3 meals. Uh, and Damien got me in at a design consultancy in North Carolina. So then we started working together, our day job together, which was awesome. Um, and and honestly, I learned so much working at a consultancy where you're doing sketching, prototyping, CAD, rendering every single day. It is a bunch of like weird projects and you're not in control of what the projects are, but you're doing the major things every single day. Uh, and I think I learned more there in a year than I did in 4 years at school. Like so much busyness.
100%. Yeah, it was a crucible, for sure. And it really it shaped my perspective on design working there. So I guess when we split, graduated in 2014, Nate moves to New York. I move to Winston for a couple of years, do some point of purchase display design, do some mechanical engineering, more design stuff. And then I get a call from this consultancy, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to come work here?" And I was like, hell yeah, I want to come work there. And so I moved to Raleigh. And I moved to Raleigh 2017, moved here, bought a house. And Nate calls me and he's like, hey dude, I'm tired of sleeping on dirty laundry in a one bedroom apartment. I'd like to like live somewhere that's comfortable. And I'm like, dude, say less. Come down here. You can stay in my house, and yeah, I'll get you an internship at the place where I'm working. And honestly, I don't know. You don't realize it at the time, but like those are the good old days because you got your boy and you're doing your things and you're waking up together, you're driving to work together, you're working together, you're driving home together, you're eating dinner together. We're spending
That
a
was wild.
lot of time together.
A lot of
So,
FaceTime.
a lot of FaceTime. And so what would happen is, we'd have these ideas and, we'd sketch them down in like a little notebook and be like, oh, wouldn't this be cool? Wouldn't that be cool? I really hate this thing, right? And we doodle these little doodles and then, after a couple of, maybe like a year of that, it just gets sad because you're like, man, all these doodles are just like they're just nothing. They're just dying in this notebook. Like they're going stale here. What if we could what if we could get these out into the world, right? I know that, at the time I didn't have the confidence to launch a product on my own, and Nate didn't really like, we had other things going on, right? So we're like, we're not gonna like build a company, but what we could do is license this. We could license some of these ideas to people who already built things because we felt like we add value in the design process, maybe not necessarily in the execution side of it. So uh, we take our list of ideas, we build out this lookbook, and we actually approach Craig Hill, where Nate used to work, and we're like, hey guys, we have these designs, we think they're awesome. We'd love to like work with you on them. And then in 2017, we showed him to Hunter Craig Hill, and he was like, dude, I love these bookends. These are I cannot like we saw them on Friday, and then he said he could not stop thinking about them all weekend. Like he was losing sleep thinking about these bookends. And we're like, dude, hell yeah, we feel the same way. So they, licensed the bookends from us and started making them. And honestly, that was sort of the catalyst for saying, let's do a design brand, and it can be me and you, Nate, together, and we'll design fun things, and we'll license them to companies, and we'll push really hard to sort of get this licensing model off the ground in the US, which is something I don't know, even today, but especially in 2017, I feel like, oh, oh, in 2017, it was so long ago. But, in 2017, it didn't feel like there was a lot of traction for that because in Europe, it was an established thing. And we talked to a lot of European companies and they're like, well, do you have a customer base in Europe? And we're like, no. And they're like, well, sorry, so it's hard to like this chicken and egg problem where if you don't have the name recognition, the brands don't want you. If you don't have the brands, you don't have the name. So, it was nice to get that one win, right? And that sort of set the tone for revision and the direction that we wanted to head sort of early on.
That's awesome. I'm curious to ask then, like looking back on it now, do you feel like that is something you would recommend to other people to do if they're interested in following the same path? Like if there's other designers out there who have these ideas, they have these things in their sketchbook, they want to strike out on their own. Do you recommend going down that licensing route, or is that something you would do differently? Like, what's your reflection? What's your guys' reflection on that?
I feel like it worked for us, but we were lucky. We were in the
Hmm.
right position at the right time. And our big licensing deal was with Craig Hill, a place I had worked. So it's not like I don't think you can graduate school and just start rendering stuff and sending it to companies and get deals. Uh I think that's like a myth, or maybe it's a known. Maybe that just hasn't existed in decades. I think it used to be the way design was done, but now it is not at all. Uh, so I wouldn't recommend it. We just got lucky.
I,
Um, we
I
tried
agree.
licensing lots and lots of things to lots and lots of companies, and we got like zero positive feedback, except for this one thing. Well, I guess two
Literally
things, two
hundreds.
things with the same company, both with Craig Hill.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we pitch hundreds of things to dozens of companies, internationally. Like we send out, lookbooks to lots and lots of companies and just would often get ghosted or get some small amount of feedback. But it's a tough climb to get from nothing to something. And then I think that if it was something that was attainable in our situation, we would be doing it today. And today we make our own products and we sell our own products.
Yeah,
We don't
we
we don't license things. We are open to it. Like we'd love to collaborate and license something, but generally
yeah, but
like
we
the juice
pivoted.
doesn't feel worth the squeeze.
Yeah, we pivoted because it wasn't working. And what we're doing now, what we did after that worked a little better, I think. Uh, we started making our own products from the ground up. Uh, we did a couple of Kickstarters. What was our first Kickstarter was the
Bottle
convex bottle
opener.
opener.
Hmm.
We were like, hey, that's a thing. We made a real thing and we own it, and the markup is incredible. When we sell one of these this little thing, we make so many more dollars than a royalty would
Hmm.
be. You have to do a lot more work to make it yourself, but it makes a lot more sense for us.
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing for like that path, so like making your designs versus licensing your design, the biggest like drawback is like opportunity cost because you're
Mhm.
spending a lot of time sourcing, sampling, um, uh, evaluating, designing, and getting these things sort of across the line, right? So it's that thing like, the 80/20 rule. 80% of the time is taken by 20% of the effort at the end. So it's that last 20% that's really tough getting that thing across the line, which is why it's so attractive to hand it to someone else and say, can you help us do that thing while we work on the next thing that we're going to do? And so it's super attractive. And it's not to say it's like unprecedented. There are very talented designers out there like Nick Baker who've been able to like make that work. And, it just takes I, the dude grinds. Like, I don't know, it's just like that level of commitment that he has to doing it and like I said, sleeping on a pile of clothes in Brooklyn for 5 years and like going to the shows and getting the FaceTime and like meeting the people and going to Milan and scraping together, like getting it together. And now look at him, like he's a rock star and that's awesome. But it's just not something I could commit to, and I don't think Nate either.
I think he paired it really well with his social media, though.
He did.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
building some sort of audience of your own that you own, you can amplify your
Hmm.
opportunities by a lot, which really
Which you
worked out.
guys have started to do, right? I know I want to get into the Kickstarters because I'm like I know absolutely nothing about putting a Kickstarter together and I have a million questions. But like you've started to piece that together yourselves, right? Like do you have any experience or any like any knowledge that you're willing to share about like how you started to go through that process? Because you've had how many successful Kickstarters have you guys had now? Two or three or four?
Three,
Three.
three so far. We're working on our fourth now, and I'm, happy to share anybody. Like,
Plus,
if you're watching this, send me an email. I'll answer any question that you have. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll just ask right now. So like how did you put together your first Kickstarter? Like where did you guys start um with the first product?
I
You mind?
believe so. That's convex bottle opener.
Mhm.
It's essentially it's a steel ball bearing. It's hollow, which is at first surprising, but lots of the bigger ball bearings are hollow because they'd be far too heavy uh, if it was just a bunch of solid steel in this huge bearing. So we took a hollow steel ball bearing and laser cut a little hole out of it so that you get leverage on a bottle top, which we thought, and I still think that's like such a sweet little idea. You can steal something off the shelf of the
Yeah.
industrial catalog, but make it into a fancy designer product. I don't know how many times you can do that before you start to like wear thin, but like that was a cool idea. Um,
Yeah, and that's a slick manufacturing based idea too, because I didn't know that thing was hollow. I don't have one, but I remember seeing the images when you guys were launching that Kickstarter. I was like, holy shit, like this thing is like massive. It looks super heavy. I'm like, how expensive is this thing? Like, I would just assumed it was like solid and it was all CNC'd, but like that's a pretty smart conclusion. If it's hollow and it's like a simple punch out, that makes a lot of sense. Like when you were considering like doing your first Kickstarter, was that like something you were considering of like just keeping costs down and like kind of setting the bar a little bit lower in terms of like risk?
I don't think we planned to do a Kickstarter when we started that project. We wanted to just make it, but then
Hmm.
we ran into some sort of hurdle that we need to buy in and buy make 1,000 of these or make 100 of these, and we were like, oh, that's kind of steep. Let's try out Kickstarter. How hard could it be? Little did we know, making a video and editing a video and making that happen can be quite a journey. We've learned a lot over the years, but it is worth it. Like, I
Yeah,
feel like Kickstarter is it's the only social media where everyone there has their wallet on them and it's open. Like the plan is get on
right.
here and find us something to spend money on. Everywhere else, Instagram and Twitter and all of them, it's just like people looking for entertainment. And you're like begging them to come over to my corner and spend $1, spend a little bit on me. But like Kickstarter, everyone's just ready to go. You just make a good
Oh,
proposal. And
that
I think
makes a lot of
honestly,
sense.
industrial designers are like so well positioned to create a reasonable plan of making the product and then getting funding going. Uh, it's unfortunate though, and Kickstarter now, you basically need a fully functioning finished prototype. So it's a lot more expensive than the old days where you could do a rendering and be like, here's
Right.
what I'll try to do. And then people give you money and then you try to do it.
Yeah,
Uh,
that bridge of trust I think was burned by quite a
yeah,
number of companies.
that's true. And now the competition is a bit steeper. You've got like
Yeah.
Peak Design on there releasing incredible, fully finished products. It's just a marketing arena. It's just
Mhm.
a way to raise some extra money, which is what we use it for, to be fair.
Totally, yeah. I mean, I think the convex opener, like if I'm thinking back, I haven't watched a video in a long time, but it was it was bootstrapped, man. That thing was bootstrapped. It was 2020 and we were like we didn't even get together for it. Like we just like Nate edited the video in like clip like Apple
It was,
yeah, I don't know, like some program that's already on your computer, and we just put it together, and it just like had some like Zoom meeting screenshots of me and him to like explain like how we design things together from other sides of the nation. But it was
ugly.
definitely rough. It was rough, but it worked pretty well, and I think we thought that it would resonate with some of Kickstarter's like community because there's a lot of people on there who is really into like nifty like I don't know interesting interactions, something that's new and novel, right? And we thought that the convex bottle opener being what it is sort of this convex orb that sits on your shelf and then you can sort of pick it up and open a bottle with it like it's a functional tool as well as a piece of decor, would be something that would resonate with that community.
And I think it was generally well received. Not an outstanding
Yeah, yeah,
success,
yeah,
but it
yeah.
worked.
I
Uh,
think our
so
goal was like 5,000 and we raised 8,000. So we are like, oh wow, hell yeah.
which was huge numbers for our company at that point. Those
Yeah,
are definitely the biggest number we'd seen at
they were
at
huge.
that point.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and that's something I've heard from a lot of other designers who maybe don't have like these massive followings or these like huge audiences to lean on, which is like just setting the bar high enough to where you can get your tooling and all your costs of like actually building the thing taken care of and not trying to like make huge profits. Like just getting to the point where you can have a product in stock that you can then go sell and build a business off of, which is basically like what you guys have done. Um, the other thing that kind of stands out that's interesting hearing you guys talk about the process a little bit is it seems like Kickstarter is a good vehicle for just learning and growing as an industrial designer because it's a little bit low risk. Like if you fail, you haven't like gone to production or gotten like so underwater on something that you're gonna like
yeah.
be buried afterwards. And you're kind of learning like a lot of different skill sets. You're learning a lot about business. You're going through like this process of end-to-end product development in almost like kind of like a concentrated low stakes sprint. And you guys have clearly like benefited from it. Like Nate shared the page for the Kickstarter that you guys are launching now, which I won't say. I'll wait. I'll let you guys explain it if you want. But like my jaw was hitting the floor. Like the level of quality step up even between the column puzzle and then this new product that you guys are bringing out is really noticeable. It's like super
Thank you.
impressive. Um,
Yeah,
Professionals.
I mean,
We
it's
hired
amazing.
professionals.
We are
yeah,
professionals, but it's amazing how much you learn. Like to your point, it's amazing how much you learn just like from the convex bottle opener where we were just trying to hit like an MOQ. We're just trying to get to like the bare minimum that we can order and the
Yeah.
factory will actually give us the time of day. Okay, we got to order 500 units. How many dollars is that? Okay, $5,000. Let's do the thing, right? So
Yeah.
we try to make that work, and we actually like we haven't reordered that product. We ordered it with the funds that we raised from Kickstarter, and there's still like a couple hundred of them in my garage, like just and they trickle out every so often. I sell some here and there, but that was like just trying to hit like the bare minimum, right? And then our next one that we Kickstarter that we used for Kickstarter was the cork book lift. The book lift
Oh
was
yeah.
like the next product that a big product launch that we had where we were super excited about it. And the reason that we had to use Kickstarter for that one was much more of a traditional Kickstarter route where we had to pay for tooling for it. Like we had to invest in tooling
Wow.
to build the mold, to create the product. And that was something that we sort of didn't weren't prepared to invest in. And it was like looking back, I think it was like $4,000 or something. And now that seems less of a big deal, but like back then we are like,
So,
y'all, we're not gonna like what am I gonna do? Like
you,
reach in my socks and see what I can find? Like, no, I'm not gonna do that. So, having to raise actual money for actual tools to actually get something to make it was a hurdle for us. And all the cork book lifts that are in the Kickstarter video, I CNC'd at work, in my day job. Like we bought yoga blocks and I took them to work and like ran a CNC path and cut all the parts out and then hand finished every single one of them. I mean, we finished like 10 of them or something. And we used those to shoot for the Kickstarter and also send out to like micro influencers or whatever, which didn't work out. But still,
so
like we learned a lot and we made some adjustments to the design after making it. And I made a big mess of one of the C machines at work, and there was just like cork everywhere, but it's fine.
That's funny too
I,
because that's your second CNC yoga block project that I can think of.
You do what you know,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Um, it's interesting too, like something else I'm kind of piecing together is like because there's two of you, you're splitting the profits, but you're also splitting the costs, which kind of seems like a nice benefit to be able to lean on of
I
just
don't know what profits are.
right.
We're,
We're
we're,
bootstrapping pretty well now. We
we're
we haven't
bootstrapping much
we
better.
haven't put money in from our personal bank accounts in a while.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
good.
We've never taken money out.
Yeah, we've never taken any
We don't really
money.
plan to anytime soon.
We're always just reinvesting. Anything that the business makes, it sort of just floats along on its own, and we reinvest it. And that I guess that brings us to our next one, where we launched the column puzzle, and we took all the funds from that, made sure the column puzzle was squared away, and we ordered all the puzzles and got everything all done. And what we had left over, we immediately reinvested into the next puzzle design, and then launching that campaign and like I said, hiring professionals for the video and all that. So, yeah. I mean, it was every time we do it, it's like we learn more and we up the level, and it's like it's at a point now where I'm like a little bit like, are we gonna be able to maintain this this level of like quality and refinement as far as the look and the feel goes and how everything sort of comes together? Hopefully, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so we go late we're we're buying parts off the shelf and we're laser cutting them to make a bottle opener, fairly low stakes. Then the next evolution, cork book lift, still kind of a fairly like a one part simple object for the home,
Mhm.
but we're adding kind of like again though, it is you're buying yoga blocks, seeing them, but you said there was some tooling involved.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So
then
the
so yeah.
CNC was just for the video, and then after the launch, after it was successful, we go to this company in Portugal where cork grows on trees, literally,
Mhm.
and we say, hey, can you guys help us make this product that we designed? And they say, hell yeah, here you go. Here's, pay for this tool, and we'll make the tool, and we'll make the tool and the product, and then ship them to you. And then so that's why we needed the Kickstarters, because we needed to sort of engage with this company that made high quality core home goods, and then they ship them to us, and I put them in boxes and store them in my garage. But then we sort of get to tell like how dense it is. We can add our little logo on the bottom, and there's lots of customization that we can do. So they're not like one-off CNC'd by me. They're actually made by a real factory who are professionals in doing this thing.
So the Kickstarter after the Cork Book Lift was the Tetra puzzle. Um, this one we
Mm,
actually licensed to Craig Hill. Same Craig Hill, same licensing, but they decided to launch it on Kickstarter, and it raised some more than $200,000. And
240 something, yeah.
and we were like, "Oh my God,
Like, what?
our idea is worth so many dollars."
Yeah.
Like, uh, we felt had a little mixed feelings there. I mean, definitely I treasure Craig Hill, and I appreciate how much work they put in to get that thing produced, because now that we're doing it ourselves with puzzles, it is so much work. So like it's not at all that we got a bad deal, but we did see an opportunity that we wouldn't have seen otherwise. Like that Kickstarter went so much further than I thought it would, and especially with our like piddly $8,000 Kickstarters, all of a sudden we were like, "Oh my God, this could be a job. This could be our job." Maybe. Uh, so at that point, we said, screw this. We're doing puzzles. We're going to own it and launch it ourselves. And we probably need to pick like a brand and focus in on something so that we can develop an audience and continue to market to them and get something going. Because the stuff with revision is just all over the place. There's no market there. There's no audience because it's just totally random objects. Uh, so that's where we started developing the column puzzle, and we launched it on Kickstarter, what, last fall, I guess.
Yeah.
We're
September.
this close to fulfilling it now. So stoked.
Oh,
Next
We're
wow.
Tuesday. Yeah.
it's arriving. Parts are arriving at Damien's garage next Tuesday.
Wow. Yeah, that's a long tail. Um,
It's
that's
Some
pretty long. It's not.
some problems occurred.
Yeah, yeah, we've had a few global issues. I'm sure
Uh-huh.
in addition to whatever you're dealing with as far as just like the process of development. Um, that's really interesting because that was going to be my question, which is a cork book lift to a puzzle is a pretty big jump in complexity. And
Hmm.
that's a really interesting way of doing it. It's doing it with a partner or through a license to be able to like you're I don't know what the right word is. It's like you're completing the project, but you're also learning the project. You're learning about the process. And then I was having this conversation with someone today. I feel like that's the move is like try different things, keep it low stakes, and really like all you're looking for is like that first hook, like that first kind of like bump or win. And then once you get that, then it's like really like going deep or going in, which you guys have like been doing. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's I agree. You want to keep it as small as you can, but finish the job. Get the product
Right.
completely launched so that you can actually get some feedback from the market and say, "Oh, this is a great idea. It's selling like hotcakes," or "Nobody wants this." Lesson learned. You make the next thing. Uh,
Mhm.
but too often this is where I lean on Damien. Too often I don't finish the job. I have ideas and I'll prototype or 3D print, and then I don't launch it. I don't move forward. I don't name it and put it on a website or get an LLC or figure out how to sell it and collect money. I skip all of that. I say, whatever. I guess I'm moving on to the next project. But Damien keeps us on task and says, nope, we have to execute. This has to make money. And we finish the job.
Yeah, I mean, we execute on things, and like, in between all these like big launches are like tiny things like here's a set of coasters which you've never seen, but they're fine, but they weren't received well. And it's interesting, like it was something that was low hanging. Like we figured out, okay, we can buy this merino wool that's made in America, ship it to me, and I can take it to work, and we can buy a $200 like die cut press, and we can just press these coaster sets out and sell them for $24. to see if it works. And like it was like really low risk product to just like see, does this work? Do we like it? And we learned a lot from it. It's like, well, actually, like maybe this didn't work for a couple of different reasons, color and brand and it kind of got us thinking a lot about revision as a brand because this was before Curio existed. We're like, well, what are we doing here? Like, what is this brand of revision? Is it really a brand or is it just sort of like an experimental thing that me and you are doing? And that's when we kind of came up with this like, oh shit, this is not a thing. This is just like a stream of consciousness. We're not building anything here. We're just sort of putting stuff out into the universe and that's fine and that's good. But if we want to build something, are there any of these products in our catalog which we could build something around? And that's why we saw the success of the Tetra puzzle and we got to sort of peek behind the curtain with our friends at Craig Hill about like how that works and sort of the audience that's behind it and the niche that follows it and said we could do that like we love designing these puzzles and it's really fun and it's a challenging thing to do every puzzle that we've released it has been like a 2-year development cycle from initial idea in like small CAD model in Fusion to like a final puzzle on the shelf. It's like you said, it's a long tail, even to like showing it to somebody in their hands. But um, these things, you get them out quick and you can test it, see if it works, and then when it doesn't work, you don't worry about it anymore. You move on.
That's awesome. You've mentioned it a couple times, but you've kind of said like, "Hey, I CNC'd this at work," or you were able to license things to like previous employers. You guys are like something we haven't talked about is you guys are also working day jobs on top of doing all of this. This is like you're accomplishing all of this just through like will and nights and weekends and like really like putting all of yourselves into these projects. But I'm curious like because I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this question. So I've always worked in corporate, which is very like laser focused. Like I'll work at a shoe company. We are only dealing with shoes, or I'm working at um, like right now I'm working at a lighting company that's laser focused on lighting. But you guys had kind of these more like generalist roles with like the consultancy over the years. Have your day jobs informed or taught you a lot of skills that you're then like bringing back into the business? Or is what you're making sort of so niche or specific that you're kind of having to learn it ground up every time you're trying something, whether it's like the coaster or the puzzle or the bottle opener?
I think
Yeah.
I learned a lot at Craig Hill that I didn't realize I was learning then. But there were a tiny company. I was the first employee. It was Hunter and then me to start with. Grew a little bit beyond that before I left, but I learned a lot about how to bootstrap something and how to like just get it good enough and start shipping and start collecting some money for what you're making because that's the only way we get to pay ourselves next month. Uh, and it sucked at the time a little bit because I was the one getting paid and trying to live in New York like we talked about. But it does apply to what Damien and I are doing now, very much so. It's like being uh what is the word? Just finding a solution to the problem. Some solution. You keep looking and you're diligent about like we need better packaging. So we Google it, we find someone, we get a quote. We try again, we get a different quote. We change the packaging. Like you just keep moving forward instead of giving up. I think that's what Craig mostly taught me. You don't give up. You find some sort of thing so you can start shipping it.
Yeah, totally. And I would also say it's a two-way street. I think a lot of the skills I learn with working with Curio and revision, at night, I take back to work. Like I learn how to interface with Asian factories. I learn how to make a technical drawing that will actually be used to make parts on, and I learn how to read those things. I learn how to care about some details and not care about other details for the sake of getting something across the line, sort of making those hard choices during the design process. that, when I go back to work, I can, take that and say, listen, guys, we need to make a call on this or that, right? And so we can move forward. And that has been really helpful for me. And I think something that not every employer, understands is like it is a two-way street. Like if I'm like creativity begets creativity. So it's not a finite resource. It's not something that you can like turn off. And that's why me and Nate do it nights and weekends, and we've been doing it, for as long as we have. Is like because even though we're not at work, we're still thinking about these things. Like it's still just like running in the back of our heads, like, oh, what about that? What about this? Dissecting stuff, right? And the more you do it, the better you get, and the better you are able to like serve yourself in our side project and also your day job. Even if your day job, like me, is completely unrelated. Like I do medical devices, surgical robots, and optometry equipment and stuff that's like FDA regulated and a lot of hoops to jump through, but even still, I learned something making a bottle opener that I can apply here.
Yeah, that's great. And I feel like too, as I've been starting to like try make the attempt to dip my toe in the same waters as you guys, there's so much more information now too than when we graduated. I feel like 14, like we were a ways into the internet, but like more esoteric subjects, like things around like manufacturing, industrial design, there still wasn't as much information as there is now. I feel like now it's so much easier to just like go to ChatGPT or Google or whatever. And if you have like enough experience to at least just like pinpoint terminology or like acronyms of like just being able to like at least know what an MOQ is, you're at least able to like get the information you need to kind of like solve the problem and piece the puzzle together.
Totally.
Um,
Like podcasts weren't even a thing when we
right,
graduated, right? And now you can get on a podcast and learn everything you want to know about how to run a Shopify site. Like
right.
it's crazy the amount of information that's out there today. And like I don't know, one of the brands that I really look up to and sort of try to emulate is Studio Neat. They have a very similar, mindset that we do is like running lean and small and it's just like two guys and a couple of people who help them assemble pins every so often. And they did the same thing. They started testing water on a bunch of different products, kickstarting them, and then they found one that stuck. They found pins, and there's a huge market for pin enthusiasts and people who love to spend hundreds of dollars on writing utensils. Couldn't be me, but that's fine. And that's why they pivoted and they make some of the best pins out there, and I think that's huge. And watching them do that, I was like, I could do this. We could figure this thing out, me and Nate. And so that's where we are now with Curio, I guess, back to our timeline. Like we're running through revision, testing all these things, making all this fun stuff. And then we sort of hit the maybe, the gold mine of the puzzles. And we released our last puzzle, the column puzzle, which did almost $90,000 on Kickstarter, which blew us. We were like, whoa, I'll be stoked if we hit our 10K, right? And then, you get, nine times that. It was incredible. And it's so incredible, and I'm a little nervous because, like I said, Tuesday there's going to be a FedEx freight truck showing up to my house, dropping off 30 boxes with 1,200 puzzles in them that I'm going to have to take apart and put together and put little solution cards in and make sure everything works perfectly before I ship those out to 1,000 people in the world. And hopefully they all work perfectly every time. Um, but it's amazing. It's amazing once you do find that one thing, and if the stars align and it's something that you have a passion for and you love to develop and you'll never lose interest in it. And then also it resonates with a market or someone out there in the world who really loves that product. It's such a cool synergy.
This video is brought to you by our online store, Beyond the Village. You can head over to btvdesign.com to shop a wide variety of vintage finds as well as antiques. Sign up for our mailing list, you get 10% off and you'll be the first to know about new drops. You can also follow us on Instagram if you prefer to get updates that way, at beyond_the_village. In our shop we sell a wide variety of antiques, everything from glass catch-alls to some books as well. So check that out if you're interested. weeks before you buy. You can shop the rug zine, which goes through kind of the history of antique and vintage Oriental rugs, as well as some of the best styles. Strappies are a particular favorite of mine. The Murano Glass zine, which goes over what to look for if you're shopping for art glass, or if you'd like to learn a little bit more about art glass before you buy something from our shop, you can flip through this as well. And then finally, the Pattern and Texture zine, which features some of my 3D work that I've done in the past, as well as some just history on patterns, where patterns come from, how designers pull them from nature to architecture, and then everything in between as well. Lastly, we also have on our shop some merch. So I just had these hats made. You can get, they're fully corduroy, really high quality with kind of our embroidered logo on the front. So that's another way you can support us as well. Again, every purchase means a lot to us and helps us support our family and get that diaper money for our kids. So head over to our website, sign up for our newsletter, follow us on Instagram, and now back to the video. All right, so we're starting simple. You get into the complex world of puzzles, but you're able to do it with a partner. What made you have success? So you say, okay, I know puzzles are the path, but what gives you that confidence to be able to say, hey, you know what? I think we could just do this ourselves end to end. So like you go into the column puzzle, which I think on top of not only are you now manufacturing something more complicated and doing it yourselves, but I feel like the column puzzle in particular is a step up in complexity because it has, correct me if I'm wrong, but looking outside in, it seems like it has more internal mechanisms and there's more going on with that puzzle. Was that like a harder process, like a harder problem to solve for?
So I think we pushed the column puzzle. So before we got the Tetra puzzle in with Craig Hill, we had 4 or 5 designs on the back burner, ideas of things that are almost working or semi ready to go. We went with the column puzzle because we can machine the whole thing out of aluminum. That's like pff, that's the reason. Because we can make a prototype and show it in a video, and then we'll pay for tooling later. The Tetra puzzle, Craig paid for tooling before that video was ever shot. That's just how Kickstarter works now. You have to have the finished product. And our next puzzle that we're launching, we've already paid for tooling. That's the way it works. We've got samples out of the actual tool. Um, but the column puzzle, we can machine the whole thing. It is more complex because there's several moving parts inside. There's some assembly, there's hardware that goes into it. There's a logo on it, which is a lesson we learned over time. You should put your logo on your products. Uh, we've skipped that step a few times and regretted it. Um, what else? The I don't know if I've lost the question you were actually asking.
Yeah, just was it much more difficult? It sounds like it wasn't too bad since it's all CNC'd out of one piece. Is it one piece or more than one piece?
The external is one
Hmm.
piece. It has a logo that covers up an internal detail. Uh, sorry, a separate part that has a logo on it that is used as a
Yeah.
cover. And then the internal part has 2 halves with some components on the inside. Uh, no, it's definitely our most complex release up to that point, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. If I had to choose, I wouldn't have chose a column. Like that wouldn't have been the
Oh,
one. Because it was we actually had to like tweak it midway. Like after we had launched the Kickstarter and it did really well, and we got back some production level samples from the manufacturer, they didn't work as well as we were hoping. They had some issues with some of the adhesive that goes inside there and some of the details with, some of the mechanisms that are in there, and they were like inconsistently solving. And we were like, what? Oh my God, we got to fix this right now. And that's why it was delayed more than we wanted it to be. We were hoping to fulfill this in February, but we are like, we cannot deliver this puzzle. This is not going to be fun to solve. And we're going to get people that won't have to send it back because it's going to be broken or it will break over time. And so we actually just like redesigned the whole internal mechanism, which is 90% of the design work in this puzzle is just like what's going on inside that shuttle. and we redesigned it. All using the same parts but different geometries and reorienting some things, and we were able to like eliminate some of the risk factors inside of there, and we got something that works beautifully every single time, and it'll never mess up on us. And that was one thing that we're like, if I if I do it over again, I would not want that to be my first experience launching a puzzle on on Kickstarter, because a lot of our other puzzles, they're cast puzzles and they have intricate, mechanisms and stuff, but it's all sort of external and it's not as sort of hidden away. And so I would have chosen, one of those other ones that we're more familiar with, the solve processes and sort of the mechanisms that we are sort of comfortable with, rather than the column puzzle. But like Nate said, the reason we chose the column puzzle is because if three people back the project, we can order three puzzles and it's fine. It'll be like, you know, marginally more expensive. But basically we get economies of scale, but because we haven't invested a ton of time and energy and money into like, tools and casting processes and samples, then we can just like churn them out, one at a time if we need to. Obviously it's much better for us if we are able to order 1,000 at a time. But uh, that's why we chose to go with the column first, because um, it just being Nate and I and bootstrapping, we're like we can just, if we barely make it over the line, this CNC puzzle we can order the exact number of people who ordered them plus 10, and then just that one's done and we move on to the next one.
Yeah, that's great. Why do you think, because you've had these two Kickstarters now, and the numbers you're throwing out there are like not insignificant, like 90 grand, couple hundred grand. Like these things are crushing. What about these puzzles do you feel like is driving their success? Like what do you have you like done customer studies or gotten insights around it, or is it a wild
Oh,
guess or
we're in the middle of that right now.
yeah.
Like literally, like we are trying to figure out like we know what we love about puzzles. We know what we appreciate about them, but I what I think I'm learning is that it's not the same thing that, one of our solvers or enthusiasts loves about them. I think, most people who are backing a puzzle on Kickstarter, they're there because they are looking for something unique, something that's new and novel, and something that no one's ever seen or messed with before. And so they're looking for these puzzles that they can get their hands on that are just like, mind-boggling. um, Not to say our puzzles are all mind-boggling. There are puzzles that exist in the world that are made by craftsmen and like dudes that make, you know, three a year out of, like the rarest red oak you've ever heard of. And it's just, and they cost literally $400 or $500 for one puzzle. And the way that it works is like somebody will they'll put in an order, they'll pay $500, they'll wait 9 months, they'll get their puzzle after that, they'll solve it, they'll have a good time, and then they will sell that puzzle for $500 to the next person who wants to solve it.
Wow.
And some of them are like $1,200. It gets astronomical in the community. What we're trying to do is bring some like tiny bit of that, some tiny like bit of that quality and that craftsmanship, that Japanese artisan who's making them out of wood, and bring it to somebody who is on Kickstarter who has got $100 to spend, or to a daughter who wants to get their dad something, but their dad's already got everything he could ever want. So you get him this interesting puzzle. So
Right.
we're trying to like bring that magic a little bit and make it more accessible for other people. And I think that's why it resonates a little bit, is because we're able to sort of, we appreciate those really complex and beautiful, like, sequential solve and really intricate puzzles, but um not everyone does, and we want to make sure that everyone can have some fun.
Yeah, that's cool. It's funny. You had shared Damien, I think, a video of like one of these like puzzle influencers solving
Mm.
The calm puzzle. And I remember I went to his channel and I sorted by like most popular, and it was exactly what you're talking about. It's like it's like this
Mhm.
giant box. It was like Knives Out level shit of like
Yeah, it is.
parts flipping out and gears like turning. It's like the whole thing looks like a movie prop. It was
Yeah.
completely wild. I'd never like seen anything like that. But I feel like that is something that design brings to the table that is unique. And I've heard this story a couple times now where it's because designers have taste and are almost like tastemakers. We can go to like the highest of the high end and understand the value that's there
Mhm.
without like thumbing our nose at it, or like we're able to kind of like see past the price points and the what do you call it, like the excess ornamentation or whatever it is, and then like extract that value
Mhm.
back down. I feel like that's a unique skill that industrial designers bring to the table that is important. um
Totally. And also like we didn't just stumble upon it. Like Nate's been designing puzzles since, 2014, right? He designed some of the first puzzles that Craig Hill released, and before that was very interested in like looking at like, if you see some of these puzzle blogs, they look like they're straight out of 2008, and it's just like it's just some guy who's probably in his like 50s or 60s, and he just like puts together this like Python script that you type in some numbers and you get this like really interesting interactions out of it, and you're just like, what the hell am I looking at? You know, but it's so interesting. It's so cool. And like I said, Nate's been tooling around those sites for a decade now. And so it comes naturally.
Maybe.
yeah.
It's still a whole lot of work and a whole lot of failure. Like, oh, people often say like, "Oh, how do you design puzzles?" And like the honest answer is we just try. Like,
Mm,
just try, and it just like you're gonna throw away 99 of them, but that 100th one, you'll be like, "Oh, it's working. It's interesting and it's fun. We have a puzzle." And then you try
yeah.
to do that again. But like the number of puzzles I've played with and 3D printed and tried to put together that don't, or it goes together and it's not at all interesting. It's just like, oh, okay, you have to do this first and then that second. Like it's not a puzzle at all. Like it just defining a puzzle is such a challenging subject. Like uh
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely like a, a unique object. Like I can't imagine designing a puzzle as like designing almost anything else. I can't, I don't even know like what I would compare it to.
it's weirdly backwards. It's like everything you industrial design, you want to make it as simple as you can and as intuitive as you can. But a puzzle, you want it to be counterintuitive. You want to
Right.
trick everyone into thinking go left when then the solution is go right. Or you want so many steps that they have to jump through. uh, One of the things Damien and I always talk about when we're evaluating a puzzle is did we create breadcrumbs for the solver to slowly figure it out? You don't want to create this one monumental leap of getting your mind from you don't understand to you understand. You want to try to create ways that people can like engage with the puzzle and play with it and learn something about the inside and another step, and slowly they get closer to the solution. That's been a key learning on our end to like how do you make a good puzzle that people enjoy is give them a path to the success.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad you said that because that was going to be my next question, which is just like how do you deal with frustration? Because I have to imagine that's a huge part of puzzles. Like if I buy $100 thing off of Kickstarter and I can't solve it, I feel like that I have to imagine that would leave a bad taste in somebody's mouth. So it's like you want to make it challenging enough to where they feel like they're getting their money's worth and there's like something very clever and interesting happening, and it does take like a certain amount of time to solve, but not so complex that they feel like burned.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
totally.
definitely there's a Goldilocks zone that we aim for. We've played with puzzles that we've designed that are way too hard or like too like blind, I guess. Like I feel like I can do it, but there's no way I'd know how to do it if I didn't know how to do it. Uh, and then there's stuff that's way too easy. So there's a Goldilocks medium there. But I also feel like our market is people who want puzzles. So it's kind of like people who like hot sauce, like spicy things. They're not going to complain that it's spicy. Like they want that.
That
Yeah.
makes sense. So then I have another question, which is like, how do you how do you user test this thing? Because your audience is obviously very niche. So like when you're develop and you know all the solutions, you know all the moves because you're
Right.
deep in the process. And you can't necessarily, I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming this isn't something you can necessarily give to like a family member or someone who's only like marginally aware
They're
of
not interested.
puzzles. So
They're
how the
like,
hell
no,
do you
thank
like,
you.
yeah, like how do you figure out that medium? Is it just experience and kind of knowing like, hey, I know I need roughly like this level of complexity or these types of breadcrumbs or are you having to kind of like figure that out by hand?
We're
There's
constantly
a
second guessing. It's always like, oh my God, does this meet our bar? Like, one thing that we always say to each other is like, a good puzzle should make the solvers feel smart. And what that means is it shouldn't be, like you said, too difficult that they never solve it, but not too easy that they don't feel like they got their money's worth. It should challenge you, but then make you feel like you accomplished something. And we want to design a puzzle that is not only challenging mentally and dexterily, but also once you've solved it, it becomes this trophy. It becomes this thing that you put on your countertop or you put on your shelf, and you invite other people to check it out because it is a beautiful thing that is thought provoking and it's a conversation starter. A lot of puzzles, like think of like a Rubik's cube. You would never put a Rubik's cube on your shelf, really. But well, at least none of us here would. Some
Nope.
people would, but we if you want to like have something that's beautiful in your home as a piece of decor, that's why we try to strike that balance of like a puzzle that's beautiful and thought-provoking and interesting and difficult enough.
Yeah, it's like even if you don't solve it, it can still sit on the shelf and it's not necessarily it's still a conversation piece
Mhm.
at the end of the
Even if you,
day
yeah,
or yeah.
you decide you got to like peek at the cheat sheet and you got to put it together. That's fine because half of the fun actually is like handing it to someone else and watching their brain tick, right? And then
Yeah.
seeing what they did that you didn't. And then when you get the next one, you can try a different way, right? And so it doesn't lose its value because you don't solve it. But like Nate said, selling hot sauce to hot sauce enthusiasts, they know what they're getting themselves into most of the time.
Yeah.
And if it does end up on the shelf, disassembled, we give a little card inside the packaging with a QR code that they can scan and like watch a video and like where we explain here's how it goes, here's how it goes together. In those videos, we try to give like hints, and then you can pause it if you really want to like
Oh,
follow
that's
along
cool.
or try your own thing, rather than like just like saying here's how to do it. It's like here's how you could start. Okay, well, if you're still struggling, try this, and then here's the solution.
That's really neat. And I feel like you captured that. It's pull I'm seeing the vision now because you guys really capture that in your Kickstarter video. It's like the way it's shot totally captures like that whole vibe and mentality of like passing the thing around and like everybody looking in on it. I do want to talk about the newest puzzle that you
Yeah.
guys are going to launch because that's the whole point of why I think we're doing this interview, so you guys can
do
like
it.
promote this thing a little bit. Um, I just want to say really quick, I was watching the video and there's a piece, there's a shot and a clip in that trailer, or I don't know what you call it, where one our former professor, Don Corey, who to explain this to anybody, we all shared a professor in school who I would say we all had a pretty large amount of respect for, but who also set like a very high bar to achieve. Like he pushed us all, I think, to go past what we thought we were capable of or able to do. There's a part in the video where he's looking at the puzzle and he goes, "Oh man, this is really cool." And I like my heart like felt for you guys. I was just like, "Yeah, like you did it! Like
I cried. I
you
cried.
sold
I was
out on
For
like,
this
sure.
thing." Anyway, it's just like a little sidebar, but
So
so like
proud.
I'll tell you, I won my superlative out of college was like not during college, but like in the years since was Don's best improved, most improved,
nice,
because
yeah, yeah.
when I got out of senior studio, I don't think he had high hopes. And that's fair. Honestly, it's fair. But I think he was when we invited him to come be a part of the video, he was touched and honored and very excited and he loved the puzzle. That day was such a crazy day. I think first and foremost, I want to like shout out my wife, Ashley, who helped art direct and coordinate that entire video shoot. So like the results that you see in that video are direct results of her, effort and her vision and the way that she sort of, got everybody together and she's like, this is how it needs to be. We need to hang these curtains. We want people to dress like this. We want this. It was phenomenal. And I feel like I said earlier, that bar that she has set and that we have set for ourselves is so high now. I'm like, how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna do this? If she's going back to school for her doctorate in fall, and I'm like, you're gonna help us, right? Like you're still gonna you're still gonna help us. So that's huge. That was huge. And then we also like hired a videographer to come in and do it instead of just doing it with our iPhones. Someone who like could help capture what I feel like is the magic of those puzzles in the interaction that you have. It's not just like a solitary thing where you do it, in the corner by yourself. It can be a communal thing where you can have a lot of fun passing it around and showing people. But yeah, we were definitely what did there's something in the video where Don says, um, he's like, "This is good," and I'm like, I'm gonna print that out. I'm gonna print that out
It's
and like put captions under it and like frame it and put it in my office. It's like Don Cord, this is actually good. And then like,
simple. This is good.
This is no, I like this is
Ah,
actually good. Yeah.
it's actually good.
Oh, that's awesome. So tell me about the new puzzle. Like what is the sell of this one? I mean, I know a little bit because I watched this beforehand, but for people who are like seeing this thing for
Yeah.
the first time.
Well, let me pull it out and show it on camera. I don't know how much of your podcast listeners are listeners only, uh, but that's it. It's this wild cube octahedron with every corner a sphere positioned. So it kind of comes together like a molecule model, which is why we named it Atom. We you could struggle in him and haw over puzzle names because you don't want it to be too direct, too obvious. You can't give away the answer in the name, even though the way you're thinking about it for the past 2 years is the answer. So you have to like totally separate. Uh,
Yeah, you can't call it the ball of balls.
you
That won't
can't.
like roll off the tongue for the Kickstarter. Yeah.
Many many puzzle designs do get a name like that though. Very direct. Like what is this in geometrical description? That's what you get. Um, yeah, this is it. It's our wildest puzzle so far. I am nervous about getting the whole job done, getting it fulfilled, but I'm really excited. Like you said, like you saw the video, it's a huge leap forward compared to the column puzzle. Um, it's also vastly more confusing inside. Like I'm like this far away from understanding everything about it, but I'm not quite there yet.
That's super
Uh,
interesting. Like even you as the person who's made this thing is
mhm.
like 80 or 90%. Yeah, yeah.
I'm like so close. I almost get it.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Sometimes I do for a moment.
That's
Uh,
awesome. And then
Damien, what about you?
one of the thing that really one of the things that really stood out to me, I'll help you out a bit, was like there's a you mentioned there's like an element where it's like if you touch it a certain way, the whole thing just like basically crumbles or falls apart, which is like a
Mhm.
really that's like such an interesting like we talk a lot about work about like delighters in products, like what are little free things or like interactions or things we can get that will like add the extra like pizzazz or joy to like this thing that we're developing. I thought that was like a really interesting byproduct. Was that one of like the driving wins that like made you want to manufacture this thing, or like what was the reason you kind of like picked this design out of your notebook?
I think this design it does fall apart. You find the key basically and you start to move it and the whole thing implodes. Lots of puzzle designs are like that though. This one has a unique moving mechanism between all the parts in a really surprising way. Um, they're all spheres and they're all sliding around one another in different directions at the same time. And together they lock all the pieces in, but once you twist it the right way, they don't care where all the other pieces are. It's like a an arch where that keystone at the top makes it all hold together. But if any of these pieces is gone, none of the pieces care about being an arch anymore. They don't care at all. Uh, I think a lot of our puzzles have that element of like great, satisfying mechanical movement. Um, that's one of the key drivers of how we pick a favorite one. When you move from 3D print to deciding we're gonna go for it, it's which one can you like slide in your hands over and over, and it's like a fidget toy that you're happy to play with. That's like a really great sign that people will enjoy this down the road.
Totally, yeah. And like you said, like one of my favorite things about this puzzle is that melting, that moment when it melts, and that it's kind of it's frustrating because you want to pick it apart. You want to like take this thing out and say, "Oh, that's where that goes," and be able to put it back and move it again. And some of our puzzles have like, some aspects like that where you can put like two or three pieces together and look at where the third or fourth would go. Right. And now I can sort of mentally map out how I want to get it there. This one doesn't work that way. And it's something that I really love about an old puzzle that Nate designed at Craco called the Jack puzzle. It's the same thing. You remove a keystone and the puzzle melts in your hands, and you're just like left looking at these um, similar but slightly different parts and trying to figure out, okay, well, how did these come together and how do they go back apart? And this that moment of both like intrigue and exhaustion is a really interesting tension to me, and I think to most of our solvers.
That's awesome. I also like that you call your customers solvers.
They
That's
are,
like that's a
yeah.
cool like title, you know what I mean? Awesome. Well, cool, man. It's getting pretty late here, and we had sort of a late start, so I do want to kind of wrap it up here. I mean, thank you
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
for coming on and like explaining this. I feel like I've I don't you're the only people I know or I've met who design puzzles, which is like such an interesting subject. So it's really cool to hear like all about the process and like the and I think it's like that as well. I think there's three things that I would take away that are like super interesting. The puzzle there's like the mechanics of the puzzles, which is super interesting. The fact that you guys have all like built this business from the ground up and you did it in a way that was like very logical, and I think there's a lot of like learnings to take away from that. And I also think it's really powerful the way you guys like support each other and the way you've like helped each other grow and like the way you lean on each other and ask for help. I feel like that's a big fault I see in industrial designers specifically is because we have this like very generalistic skill set. We kind of have this weird mentality where we think we have to. It's like, well, if I don't touch everything, then it's like it's not my design or whatever. And I think it's like by you guys removing those barriers and like setting your egos to the side a little bit, like you're able to accomplish so much more together than most people do probably throughout their entire careers. And you've done it within like a few like a short time span. Um, which is really, really cool. So, if you want to direct people, like if people found this conversation interesting, where could they find you? Is there like an easy URL for the Kickstarter? Maybe we'll tell them it would be what Curio Adam is what they should be looking for.
Yeah, yeah, the Curio Atom. They can always look at our website, curiopuzzles.co. Like we're always gonna be blasting whatever our latest thing is there. Follow us on Instagram in Curio Puzzles or TikTok. We will never post, but you can see us and we'll post as much as we can. It's literally just the two of us, and we're really bad at that kind of stuff, but we'll do our best. And then yeah, just like you can check us out on Kickstarter, and we can definitely have a link posted to this show for everybody to check out.
Yeah, yeah, I'll put all your information in the description, so if people want to follow up, they can go down there and click. And then my links are down there too. Please buy antiques. Awesome. All right, thanks guys. I appreciate it. And yeah, all the best of luck with the Kickstarter and like continuing to develop more products going forward. So yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you,
Ray.
Ray.
Awesome.